personally, being a not really a religious person myself, I grew up Jewish. Uh, I actually was able to find like a lot of really important insights from the Kanye podcast.
Mm,
Like you said, listening to it in the long form, you're really able to get an understanding of where he's coming from, and coming from that non-religious background, he did a great job of explaining his rationale for like the choices he made, and it wasn't off-putting being someone
right.
who's not religious in nature. And what he was talking about overall, the ideas of sustainable communities, like bringing people together, and our backs are just to each other. I mean, that's a message that I think it can resonate with a lot more people, not just people who are people of faith. So I think by calling him crazy, by just creating this idea that he's someone who we should just completely disregard, it's incredibly destructive to anything we're trying
Mm.
to accomplish.
Yeah, man, and that's a great point because what you're really saying is I may not believe the same things he believes about God or faith. However,
Mm.
man, when you actually look at his ideas and when you actually look at what he's saying, it's dope. And to me, that should be what Christianity is. To me, that should be somebody can look and say, yeah, I'm not sure about the whole Jesus thing. I'm not quite sure what I think about the resurrection. It's like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson says, he said he's agnostic on if if the resurrection is literal. Jordan Peterson said, I'm agnostic on if the resurrection is literal, but I live as if it is, and I live as if there's a God, right? Which is a very interesting, but I think that's a pragmatic approach to if we truly depict the message of Jesus accurately, which I feel like Kanye did in that Joe Rogan interview. It should be appealing, it should be enticing, it should be exciting, it should be good, even if somebody's like, I'm not 100% sure about all of it, but man, that's actually really cool. He's talking about self-sustainable foods, rethinking the foster care system, all of these issues he's actually thought through and started working on, farming and houses, right? And that's really cool. And again, I just wish more of us had that. When you sit, I think there's a huge argument for. It's gonna sound weird, but I think there's a huge argument for the pragmatic nature of Christianity as a worldview and not just as a theology. Meaning, Christianity, when you look at it applied in a healthy manner, it's the most pragmatic way to live, even if the theology somebody is not quite sure about it, right? And I don't think we talk about that idea enough. And I think that this is where like a Joe Rogan kind of glosses over it, where I think that was the first time I saw Joe Rogan speak positively about religion. Not the first time I heard him speak positively about religion, but the first time I definitely heard him speak positively about Christianity. I never heard him speak positively about Christianity, which I thought was really cool. So that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Isaac, because that to me tells me that my line of thinking is accurate. Yeah, my line of thinking is accurate with regards to how it could appear. So thank you for sharing that, Mo. Big time. Let me go to Track Major. And again, if you guys have questions, just throw a little hand up. There's a good amount of you guys in the chat. Track Major with the ill studio setup, flexing on us a little bit, just to make sure we know. You get busy on the production. What's up, man?
Nah, I'll touch on the Kanye thing real quick since, last few people touched on it. I think one of the things that we gotta be, at least I'm aware of, and we have to be realistic about is like a lot of times when we see a celebrity of Kanye's stature come to the faith, um, we start to kind of, I don't know, we start to elevate them a little bit more than we need to. Because we wouldn't do that for if somebody walked off the street and came into the church, gave their life to Christ. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things in the faith that we wouldn't necessarily put on that individual because we know it's a process, right? It's not
Mm,
something that there's a lot of things that we may not understand in the beginning. There's a lot of growing up and maturing that needs to happen when we come into the faith. And so we're seeing Kanye come into the faith still, very immature in the sense of his faith. and is growing and becoming, more and more of a strong believer. And then we're already saying like he could potentially be a candidate for presidency, hoping that as believers that he is going to be the best, I'll use this loosely, best representation of what a Christian candidate could be. And I'm just like, that sounds all good and dandy, but I'm more concerned about Kanye's walk. Like, I just want to see him become the best, like, Christian that he could be. Like, I just want to see him, like, at the base level, just like be a man of God that's really, really seeking after God's will. And you made a great point, and when you were going over the Joe Rogan podcast, that he's still clearly dealing with some of his own personal things, like still dealing with, you said he might have some anger issues, and you said you saw some other things that I thought I saw in the interview too. And I'm just like, man, like, why are we as believers like ready to like put this man on a pedestal? Like let him find his own personal relationship with God before we start to say Kanye this, Kanye that. Because if he wasn't a celebrity, we wouldn't put those type of accolades on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't do that.
Yes and no. So this is what I would say. I would say, yes, you're right in that we shouldn't put him on a pedestal for sure, right? I'm with you there. I think the flip side to that is there's a friend of mine, and he'll be on the channel shortly, and I don't want to give too much of it away, but he's an amazing photographer, amazing cinematographer, amazing he designed the NWA Straight Outta Compton logo. He's done a lot of like iconic logos, a lot of iconic designs. And he got saved this year, like radically saved this year, right? And so even though he's not a Kanye, it's still somebody that operates creatively at a very, very elite level. And I celebrate that contribution, and I celebrate the fact that God's gifts are without repentance, meaning God gives gifts and takes them away, doesn't take them away, right? So even though this person is not someone that like I'm necessarily gonna one up in teaching Sunday service yet, right? I'm still grateful for the fact that God redeemed and rescued somebody that operates at such a genius level creatively. And so I think with Kanye, it's that. And and I've been to Sunday service multiple times. I've seen Sunday service multiple times. And I've seen Kanye before Christ. Like, I've seen Kanye in, I saw the Yeezus tour live, and I saw him and Jay-Z at South by Southwest in Austin. A super dope performance. But what I noticed at Sunday service is the man barely says anything, and he just does his raps. He doesn't do any preaching, and he just stays quiet and almost stays out the way. Like, he's almost not visible at the Sunday service things, which to me is indicative of the humility that he is operating under, knowing that he is, and he said, I'm a young Christian. I'm a young Christian. And so I think even if it were the Joe Rogan interview, he's saying that I believe in my lifetime at some point I will be the leader of the free world, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to happen in 2024 necessarily, in 2028. That's just what he believes. And so I think if we hear him out and we're like, yo, this dude is on some like genius creative stuff. He's thinking on like an Elon Musk type of level. Like, he's really out there with his stuff. So I feel you in terms of like, hey, let's not promote him too soon. I think you're totally right. I think what we're saying is we're kind of admiring the gifting that's always been there with him and the mind that's always been there for him, and to say, wow, now that mind is for the kingdom, and that is something we should celebrate it. I didn't write him in today, just to be completely honest. I didn't write him in today because of the very reason you just mentioned, Track Major.
And I'm not even mad at anybody who's hopeful of that. I think we're all rooting for Kanye, right? I think we're all praying for him, and we want to see him do well in all the things that he wants to do. But at the same time, I'm just saying, let's just be aware that he is still a new believer. Kanye might flip and do something crazy tomorrow. That's like, whoa, what just happened?
Sure.
This is the dude that was just on, talking about how much he loves Jesus yesterday. And all of a sudden, it's going to make a lot of us look like, wait, whoa, we was endorsing this guy heavy yesterday. And now we're in a position where we have to like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, let's continue to like prayerfully watch and hopefully he's being led, and hopefully the right people are coming into his lives too, to kind of like continue to mentor him and all these type of things.
Yeah.